All right, so the new moon in Capricorn is going to be happening on December 30th at 12:26 p.m. Hawaii time. I'm not sure what time that's going to be for you in your time zone. Um, but let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first place I want to start here is that we are in Capricorn season here. The sun is in Capricorn. And I really believe, when I was tuning into this season of Capricorn, that we're in a type of birth canal of some kind collectively. And we're shining a light, we're bringing a lot of clarity to a season that is full of contractions and expansions. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn's going to be in Pisces. Saturn is going direct in Pisces, but it's squaring Jupiter. And this is what gives us that contraction kind of expansion experience on a spiritual or energetic level. Jupiter loves to expand. It can be excessive at times, whereas Saturn can restrict and contract and bring more containment to things. And in this season of Capricorn, that sun in Capricorn is shining a light, is bringing that clarity to these, let's say, creative contractions and expansions, or where we are spiritually expanding and receding again. It really reminds me of those natural tides of the ocean, where there's a high tide and a low tide, where there's a wave that might bring you closer to the shore, and then there's that rip tide that can pull you back out into the ocean again. This is kind of the energetic dance that I feel like a lot of us will be having with these contractions and expansions that are happening with us energetically as we go through Capricorn season. What I really see about this, because we're in Capricorn season, headed towards this new moon on December 30th, is that these contractions and expansions are allowing us to emerge from our inner world and initiate something into the world. So our inner world, you can see that as our psyche, our psychic information, our spiritual world within us. Something is birthing inside of us. Something is beginning. Something is new. Something may have been in the gestation process that was inside of us, maybe growing inside of us, developing inside of us, coming into form within us. And it's finally ready to take its first step into the physical world, into the outer world for the first time, beginning a type of ambitious ascension, growing, developing, building, and taking a step-by-step ascension to greater heights in some way. This is the type of energy we're working with in this Capricorn season. All right, so this brings me to the new moon in Capricorn, which is going to be at the 9th degree. This is the first decan of Capricorn, which means it's very initiative. Capricorn is a cardinal sign, which means it can really initiate action. Now, this new moon in Capricorn does have that kind of emergence quality to it. Something is being initiated. New moons in general, of course, are new beginnings. It's a new beginning to a creative cycle in our lives. However, with the new moon being in a cardinal sign, in the first decan of that cardinal sign, that is really emphasized in this new moon. There's something that is emerging for us. Okay, just like the sea goat emerging from the sea and taking its first step on land, there's something that we have been kind of inward about, or maybe internal about, or maybe something that's been hidden, percolating, gestating, that we're emerging from and starting to bring out into the world. It's finally ready to start taking its steps, so to speak. Okay. Capricorn is that energy, like I mentioned, that's an earth sign. So it can be very practical. And it is like that goat. It can transcend and go up large mountains. Capricorns are known for creating legacies, building something over time, the delayed gratification of all the hard work, discipline, commitment that we put into something. There's something ready to come out into our outer world that's ready to go through a big ascension process in some way. Now, what I think is really special about this new moon is that it is conjunct Pallas Athena and Capricorn. So Pallas Athena is a warrior goddess. She's that goddess of war. She brings a lot of natural kind of knowledge and wisdom and strategy to our ability to navigate through our challenges. Okay, she was the goddess that could really collaborate with lots of different people and use her wisdom, use her knowledge to either strategize in war to be successful or to avoid war completely, and bring more harmony and balance to things. So either way, this new moon is very much infused with, values of knowledge and wisdom and strategy that we're using to maneuver and get through any challenges that may be in our way here. This may also indicate where we're not only bringing wisdom and strategy and knowledge into this new moon, but we're also using that wisdom and strategy and knowledge to create structure in our lives, to put in the work, to put in the discipline, to practice, to train, to be consistent, to build something greater. Now, the new moon is ruled, it's in Capricorn, which means it's ruled by Saturn. So we want to look at what is going on with Saturn here in this new moon. Saturn is going to be at Pisces in the 14th degree, and it's moving direct. Okay. First of all, Saturn and Pisces. Saturn is that planet of responsibility, hard work, putting in that discipline, that commitment, building that structure, can also restrict things. It has that energy of restricting things. And at times it can bring up challenges and hardships. Those challenges and hardships are not meant to ruin us or destroy us, but they're meant to help us grow. They're meant to help us mature. They're meant to help us lean into the hard work that we need to do that gives us better results in the long run. Okay, so although a lot of people don't like those challenges or those hardships, if you lean into that energy with Saturn, you can grow a lot, you can mature a lot, you can come into greater reward over time. Now, Saturn being in Pisces, it works fairly well here. But there is an interesting dynamic with Saturn and Pisces because Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune, which is very open, very expansive, kind of has no boundaries. And so Pisces can be very dreamy and creative and kind of etheric and like kind of lost in the world in some ways, not in a bad way, but like kind of lost in union with all the energies, all the multidimensional experiences, all the other people, the collective energies, things like that. Saturn, on the other hand, contains that, brings restriction to that, brings discipline to that, brings maturity to that. So having Saturn in Pisces can bring up themes of emotional maturing for all of us, spiritual maturity, being more mature with our creative energy in general. But it's bringing a lot more of that discipline and authority to our feminine energy overall. We're putting in the hard work. We might not be getting immediate results, but we are going to get greater reward by putting in the practice, putting in the work, putting in the discipline to maturing, coming into more authority with our emotional intelligence, with our intuition, with our spiritual nature, with our creative nature, with our feminine energy in general. All right. So with that said, this new moon is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is basically in a sextile with this new moon, okay, which gives us this opportunity. It's a positive, supportive aspect here. And as I feel into this sextile with Saturn and the new moon, what I'm sensing here is that we're kind of like the magician in the tarot deck. Okay, the magician is this tarot card that emphasizes that we have everything we need to create what we want. We have all the tools, we have the knowledge, we have the magic, we have whatever we need, the creative power to create whatever we want in our lives. And the sextile with the new moon, it reminds me of how we have a magic wand, how that magic wand is like a tool that helps us direct our magic. It helps us direct our creative energy. It helps us focus our creative energy. Saturn is like that container of the wand or the tool of the wand, whereas Pisces is kind of like that creative or magical energy that can come through us. And oftentimes people think about boundaries and containment as something that's restrictive or negative, but it can actually help us focus and it can help us channel and it can help us deliver some results in a very specific area of our lives. Okay. And so this is sextile with Saturn and the new moon makes me think that there's something that we want to create in the long run, something that we're committed to, something that we're dedicated to. And this new moon gives us the opportunity to really aim and direct our energies in a more practical way, in a more disciplined way, in a way where we're committed and reliable and where we show up. We have that opportunity to put in the work, to do whatever training we might need to do, so that we can create the results that we want around something. Now, continuing to look at Saturn, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of focus in on Saturn here. Saturn isn't a sextile to this new moon, but it's also in a square with Mercury and Jupiter. All right. And so having Saturn square this is definitely showing us that there's some stuckness, in our thoughts and beliefs. Possibly we're stuck in a belief system, stuck in a philosophy, and maybe we're just kind of going in circles and not getting anywhere. We're kind of stuck. Maybe there's just some old traditional beliefs that we have. Maybe there's some rigidity in our minds. Maybe we've got some kind of tunnel vision going on, stuck going in circles. Um, and this is a challenge around this new moon where we need to get unstuck, update our thinking, possibly get out of our own way in the creative process. Maybe where our minds and our thoughts and our beliefs are getting in the way of something that we're trying to build, trying to develop creatively in our lives in some way. Now, the Saturn square Jupiter here, Saturn over here squaring Jupiter. Jupiter is still retrograde. It's going to be retrograde in Gemini until February 2025. And when I was tuning into this square, generally Jupiter, again, can be very expansive and excessive. It's kind of like opening up like a honeycomb, and it's spilling all the honey all over the place. And Saturn is like getting a glass jar and putting the honeycomb inside the glass jar. I mean, it's awesome that we found this honey and this honeycomb and it's abundant and it's spilling all this honey everywhere. Saturn is coming in and acting as a container so that we are more efficient with this honey, so that we don't lose the honey, so that we can do something with this honey, so that we can contain it, use it in practical ways. Okay. So Saturn definitely is coming in here. There could be something in your life that has been growing, that has been expansive, something that has even been excessive at times. Whether that's our pleasures, the sweetness of life, something that has gotten really unrealistic. Maybe where we've kind of gotten lost, in our thinking. Maybe we've gotten out of hand with something. And Saturn comes in and brings some restriction to that, brings some containment to that, gives us some boundaries for that. Okay. And overall, that's a good thing. Overall, that helps us be more realistic, be more practical, create necessary boundaries, slow things down as necessary, restrict things as necessary. But I do sense that this, Saturn Jupiter dynamic is, you know, creating a bit of that contraction expansion experience that we might be feeling. With Jupiter in retrograde, that's more of a deep internal kind of reflective energy with Jupiter. We might be going through more internal expansion. Okay. And Saturn might be helping us make that very realistic, bringing awareness and the challenge of how to make that realistic. Both of these are mutable signs. Having Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter in Gemini, these are both mutable signs. They share this in common, of being able to maneuver and adapt through a transition of some kind. However, Pisces is a water sign, Gemini is an air sign. And so we have more of an intuitive, kind of emotional, receptive energy here, and more of like a flighty, intellectual, fast, masculine energy here. And so, we might have our mind, going in a lot of different directions, expanding in a lot of different ways, thinking of a lot of ideas, learning a lot of information, going through a lot of growth with what we're learning and processing and thinking, and how we're interacting with other people, and looking at all the complexities within ourselves. And then we have Saturn here, like asking us to go back, to some of the things that we've kind of maybe glossed over, with Pisces, like easily, that Pisces energy can kind of gloss over things, make things, wear those rose-colored glasses, easily escape into dreamland or Delulu land, and kind of gloss over the necessary details. And Saturn is kind of having us go back, look at some of this stuff, reflect on some of this stuff, make sure that we're being real about some things, bringing some more realistic, um, bringing some more of that realism into our lives. Saturn is also in a trine with Juno. Juno's in Scorpio. So I think that this is a beautiful supportive energy for our relationships, and especially those partnerships and long-term relationships in our lives. Saturn in a trine here definitely, helps support commitment, forming and developing long-term relationships, initiating those close bonds in our partnerships, elevating each other in our social standing, bringing more stability, longevity, and respect and harmony to our relationships. And I really see this on an intuitive level as where we're doing the work for each other, where we're doing the work to nurture our, feminine energy in relationships, are because these are both water signs, this Pisces energy and the Scorpio energy. Both of those signs are emotional, intuitive, receptive. That's our feminine energy, right? So we're doing the work to nurture that feminine energy in our relationships, allowing ourselves to meet both our practical needs, our emotional needs, our spiritual needs, our psychological needs. Okay. Allowing ourselves to kind of elevate each other in some way. Now, when it comes to Mercury, and I've already mentioned that there's a square here with Mercury, indicating that we could be a bit stuck or stubborn in our thoughts at this time. The challenge of having to maybe get unstuck mentally on some level. But we, at the same time, have this trine with Chiron, Hygeia, and Eris. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer. It brings up our, in this case, it could easily help us uncover and reveal and expose and become aware of some of our thinking, that might be coming from more of a wounded place. It also helps us, cultivate that empathy, have a natural type of wisdom and empathy that can come through to help us in our thinking, compassion. It brings all the wisdom we need for that healing process as well. We have Hygeia here, the goddess of miraculous healing, right there in a conjunction with Chiron. And then we also have Eris here, the goddess of discord and chaos. And so, this is kind of likely bringing up a nice healing energy for us. Things that may have been causing some, conflicts within ourselves, things that have felt maybe unfair, things where, areas in our thinking that feel, you know, chaotic in some way, creating chaos in some way, creating discord in some way. There's a natural healing energy here around this new moon where even though we're stuck a little bit, maybe a bit stubborn in our thinking, we're also have the wisdom there to help us get unstuck from that thinking. And we also have the intuition there. We have a sextile with Lilith in Libra, very passionate, very intuitive, very wise about, some of the hidden things that are going on mentally, some of the hidden wounds, some of the hidden power imbalances that are coming up to the surface, for us to see. And there's still this opposition that we have here with Mercury and Jupiter, creating this tension between the details and the overall perspective in our lives. And, this opposition, every time I feel into it, it just feels like a very complex situation. It doesn't feel um, like it's black and white, whatever we're navigating and thinking through. It just feels like there's a lot of different layers to it, a lot of different details to it to look at. And, some things seem like they could be dualistic, or paradoxical in its nature when we're looking at that. This is a very interesting opposition. Both of these planets are in their detriment. Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini, Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius. Jupiter is at home in Sagittarius, whereas Mercury is at home in Gemini. So there is this mutual reception, which means that they're both kind of informing each other and being resourceful to one another. This is an energy where they're both helping each other out. It's kind of like being, again, like in an Airbnb, like in a place that isn't really aligned with your needs, what you need to fully feel comfortable there to really, express fully what you want to express. But it's kind of like having the phone, and you can call up a friend who's also in another Airbnb, and they're not really feeling comfortable either, but they're familiar with your Airbnb and you're familiar with their Airbnb, and they're talking, they're able to inform each other like, oh, yeah, you need the pot that's located in the basement. So, oh, you need to find the toilet paper that's in the closet, they're able to kind of give each other resources and information while they're in places that aren't so comfortable to them. Okay. And so this is kind of a part of the energy right now overall in our thinking and in our communication and how we're expanding and growing and, coming into opportunities. There's some complexities that we're navigating. There's some almost like a paradox that I keep feeling. There's things that contradict each other and that are also true at the same time. And that's the energy I keep getting for this Mercury opposition with Jupiter. I do want to kind of speak about this Pluto and Mars opposition and just kind of take our perspective to more of a macro level. Because I think, Pluto, permanently kind of moving into Aquarius for the next 19 years. And, we're already starting to see some things coming up in mass consciousness, kind of events that are happening in the world that are kind of showing us this new dynamic that's occurring with Pluto and Aquarius. And I think one of the most recent or interesting things that have come about that I think reflects this opposition between Mars and Pluto is this thing that happened, out in mass consciousness of this guy named Luigi. I forgot his last name. It starts with an M, but he apparently murdered the CEO of a corporation, of a healthcare corporation. And I don't know all the details of this event. And I know that it's packed full of different perspectives and even conspiracy theories about it. And I'm not really getting into the details of what happened and what I think about that, but I more so just want to reflect on the archetypical energies that are being expressed through an event like that. When Pluto was in Capricorn, it gave a lot of power to the corporations. The healthcare system is like a structure. It's very much like a structure like Capricorn. It's a system, that is supposed to help society. Okay. And when Pluto was in Capricorn, it gave a lot of power to these corporations. We were seeing this big gap in our finances around the world with corporations and people, and this big gap financially speaking, where the corporations had a lot of power. They're influencing the governments, they're influencing politicians, they're influencing, authority figures from the top down. Now that we have Pluto and Aquarius, we're starting to see disruptions. We're starting to see, the deep pain, the deep power struggles, the deep conflicts that are happening in the collective right now, where, um, people in the collective feeling neglected by corporations and structures that are supposed to support them, people in pain, people, you know, um, feeling like the need to rebel, the need to go against, the need to voice out, what is not working for them. It's not just working for individuals, it's not working for everyone. Okay. And so I feel like this act of murder, in the public eye that was kind of random and spontaneous, um, it it revealed something. It revealed a deeper issue. Yes, it's just one person murdering someone else, and that kind of happens a lot, and we're used to seeing that in the news. But for some reason, this blew up. It became very dramatic, similar to Leo. It's a very showy energy. And this is kind of Mars and Leo type energy where there's something kind of malefic that happened, like a murder, removing an obstacle, moving through a challenge, exposing a challenge, and kind of the depth underneath that challenge, the power struggle of the people. People have been trying to protest, people have been trying to vote, people have been trying to influence politics, people have been trying everything through the system, like Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn, trying to go through the system, trying to protest, trying to influence the law, trying to go through the hierarchy and the bureaucracy of the system to make change happen. It hasn't really been working. We're really freaking stuck. Society is seeing the shadow side of the corporations, and people are getting pissed. People are getting angry. People are in pain. There's a deeper issue going on. It's not just Luigi that's pissed, the guy that murdered the CEO. He's kind of reflecting a bigger issue that a lot of people are experiencing, especially in this case towards the healthcare system. And so I think this is a very interesting example of not just Pluto and Aquarius, but what it's like to have, an aspect with Mars, a malefic planet with Pluto in Aquarius. On a collective level, it's like calling our attention, to something. And it's showing us continued themes of power and control. And we're seeing these strong, dramatic, acts that bring attention, that bring a lot of attention to the people. It's stirring the pot, it's creating division, it's kind of starting to flip the table of power It's like people, everyday people flipping the table and saying, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this issue. I'm sick of being, treated like this. I'm sick of this not working. This is not working. Like this Luigi guy became very popular immediately on the internet after this thing happened. Lots of memes, lots of people creating reels, lots of people creating jokes about it, exalting him, supporting him, lots of opinions as usual. But, anyways, it just got a lot of attention, right? That's the point I'm trying to make here. Um, I feel like this is a great reflection of an individual who does something dramatic, takes down like a powerful person, kind of creates a shock for corporations, revealing and exposing deeper issues. Pluto will definitely expose hidden, deeper issues of power imbalances. And in this case, it's pointing the finger at the healthcare system. Okay. And corporations that have all the money and have all the power over the people. And I think this is a reality check of some kind for the corporations, for people in power, for people that have lots of money and authority. They're not really safe anymore. There is backlash that can happen at any time. People are feeling chronically neglected, chronically violated, chronically at a disadvantage, treated with less value, and extreme acts of violence can occur because of that from random individuals that stand out, like Leos, not Leos, but like that Leo archetype energy. I think we're going to see a lot of that archetypical Leo energy come out to counterbalance some of this Pluto and Aquarius energy. And I think that can be positive and negative. We might see Leo type figures come out in a very malefic way. We also might see Leo type figures come out in very inspiring, positively like impactful ways. But this is an example of Mars. Mars can be malefic in opposition with Pluto. You're seeing someone kind of do something dramatic that draws in a lot of attention, um, and reveals bigger issues. And in this case, this also reveals, where the collective, especially in the United States, has access to weapons. Just anyone can own a gun. Anyone can own, and create bombs, and, we've got a lot of pissed off people, a lot of people with mental illness, a lot of people who are not being taken care of, a lot of people who are becoming very intolerant of how unfair the systems are, creating a very disadvantaged life, that we're living in. And in this case, I think this brings a lot of attention to a lot of issues where people are just kind of taking things into their own hands, even if that's extreme. Again, Pluto kind of has an extreme side to it, extreme highs, extreme lows. You see someone take things into their own hands in a very extreme way, and um, revealing bigger issues. Okay. On a more personal level, I think this opposition with Pluto here, it's intense. I think it can feel intense for people. I think it's an intense time for our creative energy. It's an intense time for us energetically. We might feel like there's something critical happening in our lives, something important, something that's asking for our attention, something that might feel demanding. It might be more internal, it might be more external. It could be a positive thing overall, but it just seems to be demanding, and it reminds me of like a mother bird who has to go back and forth to that nest to feed all her little birdlings. Like she just had all these little birds hatch from their eggs and they're all kind of squealing and chirping and demanding for food. And she's just going back and forth to the nest all day long, relentless, tired, exhausted. No matter how much she works, no matter how hard she's working, it's not enough food for the little birds. They're growing, they're growing, they're growing. They need more food, they need more food. It's just a demanding time. It's temporary, but it's a demanding time. I just think there's a lot of things in our lives that might be demanding our attention. There could just be a crisis, like many different crises going at once, or many different, things demanding our attention at once, or many different things that could be positive demanding our attention at once. Maybe there's not a real break for that. Maybe we're having to actively slow down and take mini breaks or take rests. Um, but I just sense that feeling of a lot of important things calling our attention at once. I feel the pressure, I feel the demands, I feel the stress. I feel it as that tough phase where we're trying to direct our energy to something that we're trying to grow and nurture in our lives. And of course, this can be stressful, it can be intense, it can be exhausting. But nonetheless, we have to continue on and put in the effort. And I feel like that Pluto and Mars opposition is happening, within Capricorn season. It's getting more and more intense right now on within Capricorn season, and so it does change the tone of what that opposition is for us. The last time it happened, Pluto was in Capricorn. Whereas Mars was in Cancer, and that's a totally different vibe. It's bringing up kind of this, power and control stuff within our personal relationships. Just kind of this passive aggressive kind of energy. Whereas, having Pluto in Aquarius, having, Mars in Leo brings up kind of a different vibe right now. All right, guys, that's all I have time for today. If you'd like more insight into your own personal chart, you want some insight into Pluto and Aquarius in your charts, especially if you have personal placements in the fixed signs, I would highly recommend getting a natal chart reading so that you can see some of the upcoming themes, some of the upcoming big transformations that's going to be happening for you now or within the next 19 years. Bring some insight into that. If you have a birthday coming up, if you just want to understand your own energy dynamics in general, or you just want to take a look at some of the transits, how it's influencing you at this time, areas of focus, or you want to digest some of the upcoming eclipses, that will be happening in 2025 and how that might impact you. Feel free to book a natal chart reading. You can find more information in the description box below. And I just want to do a shout out here also to my group sessions every month. I don't really talk about them a lot. I'm terrible at sharing what I do, but I do have group energy healings, channel messages, and guided live meditations every single month. You can sign up. You don't have to be there live. If you miss it, you'll get the recording. But these are all based off the current energies that are happening. And so these are events and group sessions that are meant to help you rebalance during the current energies, guide you towards more intuitive guidance and clarity, uh, and self connection through these, current energies, as well as, receive, impactful information that can bring movement to you both energetically and spiritually in your lives in a very positive, transformative way. All right. Well, I wish you a very enlightening new moon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.